we mounted in that soil, so it's stable and so on. So you're creating a high pH environment, which is necessary, and of course exists at cutting all those plants. They can be all planted up in masses of this brachioglottis compactus and present a blaze of yellow at the entrance in the essay. And I think that that's done really well. It has a bit of an explanation on the side of the philology and so on. I think that we could probably encourage this successfully throughout New Zealand. From the obvious start would be, of course, to go to the south and then just spread it. But that would be our bit. And we encourage everybody else to do their bit. And what are the 65 district councils? About something in that figure anyway. So we would have secured 65 by this year.
Thank you, Alan. Thank you very much. That's great. Any questions for Alan? Yeah.
Yeah, hi Alan, thanks for that. Two questions, just want you to confirm, is it only available at Masterton? This one you're talking about? Only available, is the plant only found at Castle Point?
Yes.
Yeah, and the second question is, how do you spell its real name? I want to look it up on the...
I'll write it down to you later.
Okay. Oh, yeah.
And you may see it under the old name.
Oh, no, I've got it now. Brachioglottis compactus.
That's compactus.
Yeah.
Oh, that's the one.
Drop the brick.
I think I called it up once. You go Castle Point Daisy, it probably comes up there too.
Right, yeah. That's exactly.
And yes, Councillor Lena?
Thanks, Alan, for coming in, and really nice to see you here with some ideas that are promoting our community education and certainly the conservation space. Just wondering, here's a question.
Yeah.
What else are you going to do in terms of promoting that one council, one endangered species? Is it just here, or are you going to be doing work with other councils, or what's your plan?
Well, as I say, each council will have its native plant. That's endangered. And do you mean how could it be promoted?
Yeah, no, what are you actually, I know you're coming here as one of your strategies.
Yeah.
Are you doing anything else?
Well, I think it could probably be pushed through the local government association. I didn't have a lot of success with them some years ago. This idea goes back to 1983. And again, I did it in 1991. But on one of those people, called persistent, but otherwise known as Big E. So I just kept doing it. And it, it just sort of surfaced again. And that's when I got into the detail of it.
Any further questions for Alan? No further questions. Thank you very much, Alan. It was really interesting. I'll send you off to Gore. Okay, well, could we have Mark Wilson? Mark, I believe you're going to talk about wood. Thank you, Alan.
Afternoon all. I'm Mark Wilson. I'm Director, Owner, Chief Engineer of 06 Aviation. We're a local maintenance outfit called Aerodrome. I'd just like to give you all a bit of a brief appraisal of what's been happening or not been happening over the last basically 22 years. I've been working at Hood for 22 years. I came here April 2001. And in that time, the change has been very minimal. We've had 10 hangars built, 1 aircraft terminal, and an apron. It's basically, when you look at the numbers of what's been going on development-wise, it's pretty poor. When you look at Bridge Park, just down the road, up in Hawke's Bay, they have got 7 hangars being built in the next 18 months. There's for private users and for commercial users also. We need to be keeping this movement going forward. I've read through the options and what you have, and option 1 does seem a very good, sensible plan for this airfield to go forward. The airfield needs to be prompt and have decisive development, not another report or survey to back up the previous 3 we've had over the last however many years. We had Tony Hayward, who was the previous airport manager, telling the council and to us on the airfield that the runway needs resurfacing and reconditioning. We as users we've watched this degrade, as also the plans to develop the airfield, which over time has become very disheartening for all of us. The council and the staff has managed to lose multiple hangar builds and aviators. And when you're not just losing a building and an aviator, they're gone. They take their money with them. A brief average on dollars, you've got an average size hangar. One hangar is going to give this council approximately $5,000 a year, just in ground lease and rates alone. That does not include aircraft flying, landing fees, bringing associated friends in who also come flying, more revenue. They also will be contributing to the utility scheme. They'll have to pay their hookup fee, which is, I think is around about 20 grand at the moment. I know of other businesses that have also gone over other places, and with myself, I am the only maintenance person on the airfield, but I work in with other people on other airfields and other areas they bring in. So when you're affecting not just myself, you're affecting 4 other businesses. And one of the other businesses I talked to actually have expressed an interest in setting up a maintenance shop here, which, if they came here, would be definitely worthwhile. Here's a couple of instances of how it's occurred where we've lost people. One guy I know, who's an aircraft owner, he's tried for over 2 years to build a hangar at Hood. And he's tried and he's tried. He only wants to build a simple hangar, nothing too fancy, just wants to keep his aircraft out of the rain. But with a lack of communication and forethought, he just got fed up. He said, in his words, he lost his faith and he's applied to another airfield on the South Island. And within 2 weeks he had a piece of land. He has taken his aircraft, he's built his hangar, he's moved, he's gone. That aircraft is now gone. He won't be coming back. Secondly, in 2018, the council wanted to have hangars, home hangars, business park and areas for people to come and view. So far, not a lot has been happening, but another customer of mine, who is no longer here, he wants to build a home hangar. He was extremely interested, extremely passionate, and money was no object to him, what he wanted to do. He tried and he's tried, and this is a quote from him, and he quoted, he had many false promises, and he got so much so that he's actually moved back to the UK. He's had enough. And in March this year, we took his aircraft apart, we put it in a shipping container, and we said goodbye. No one wanted to see it again. I work and I liaise with other airfields and operators around New Zealand, and I've done this for about 15 years now, so I have a good customer base and contacts. They ask, what is going on at Hood? And a lot of times we just don't know, but the simple answer is scared bureaucracy. No, everybody, so I won't say everybody, some people are afraid of making a decision. To make things go forward, somebody's got to get us out and make a decision. If you make no decision, you can't be wrong with that, can you? So let's fast forward to 2020. MP Grant Robson came here. We had a big fanfare down at Vintage Aviators large hangar, in the press, etc., etc. Excuse the pun. Mr. Grant Robson was linked into a shovel-ready project that promised jobs, development on the aerodrome, development of a growing region with many business opportunity. The money was there, but its value has dwindled, as with the promises. So there we go on that one. We've had phase 1 of the hangar build, growth, done really well. We had 3 hangars built, plus my own, for the maintenance shop. But then we stalled, we stagnated. Phase 2 did not happen. Why was phase 2 not planned while phase 1 was going on? I do not know. If the phase 2 had gone ahead and just let people build, yes, we know the infrastructure's not gone through, but the people could build their hangars. They could be told the infrastructure will be here at this roughly date. They could put their utilities into the concrete pad, the building will be there, they can use the aircraft could be there, the aircraft could be flying, and the council would be making money from lease and ground rates. So, we've got to stop comparing Hood to other airfields. Hood is Hood. We are unique. We've got such a unique airspace, and we've got a unique setup. But once again, we are compared to other airfields. As I said, with Bridge Power, they're building hangars, 7 hangars in the next 18 months, but they have flight training schools, helicopter operations, parachute operations. We have Rangiora on the South Island. Last count, just over 120 microlights live on the Rangiora. That's not a large controlled airfield. And plus they have other users of the private type and also the helicopter type. We here, I've done a tally up, 35 active aircraft. We need to grow. The opportunity there is to grow. And you think 35, then you think, we do have the vintage aviator who do not fly that much. We have gliders, they do not fly that much. We're really relying on these 35. The more people you bring in, the more aircraft you have, the more revenue you have. The pipe dream of an airline. It takes the forefront of many, many decisions, many papers that you read. Yes, it's needed. It does need to be brought on, but it does not need to be a priority. You need to have multiple strains, not just one. We need to encourage and develop more businesses. We have the opportunities. I know of a significant business that was lost, that would have been a centre of excellence in New Zealand for certain special materials that I can't really go into. We have here great opportunities, great airspace for growth of flying and flying schools. I helped at the multiple air shows. 2011 when we had the Mosquito here, I was working with the Harvards. We had a gentleman there, who's an American guy. He flew with the American Navy in Vietnam. He's flown a 30-odd year career, and he flew here and he said, Wairarapa is some of the best flying we have. Why? Why are you not flying more? I could not answer. There's great uncertainty over what's going on over Paraparang, with the flying schools there and the whole airfield. There's also Wellington Flying School. They are looking and they're testing. Why don't we make them look here? Why don't we actually say, come over here, advertise? But also when you think flying schools, we're talking private aircraft. These people, they spend a lot of money on their aircraft, and some of them only spend a little bit of money on their aircraft, and it's their pride and joy. You do not leave your pride and joy parked outside. It's good for me because I get plenty of work out of it, but for them, it costs them money. So they want somewhere to keep their pride and joy housed.
Just got 30 seconds, mate.
Oh, crikey.
Sorry.
I tell you what, I'll skip all that bit. I would like to invite the Mayor and the Council to come for a meet and greet my hangar. I'm the average type hangar on the airfield. I like to do a show and tell. Just point out on the airfield who's what, where we are, and what is going on. Name a date, we'll do it. Okay? Thank you very much. Any questions?
Yeah, any questions for Mark? No questions, thank you very much,
Cool.
Mark.
Thank you.
Really
Thanks for your
appreciate
time.
it. Thank you very much. Okay, councillors, what we're going to do now is, because we have Jill Flower here from the police and Jill has to get away, we're going to move the report, we're going to move first into the prohibition of consumption or possession of alcohol, page 208 on the agenda for Castle Point and Riversdale. And Terry Mulligan is going to do the report for us. Is Terry going to come up? Sorry, Terry, we should have probably warned you.
So I'll take the report as read. And it is a continuance of what we've done in previous years of having alcohol prohibition in public places at Labour Weekend and at New Year in each segments of Castle Point and Riversdale. And also the addition of a road closure at the entrances of Castle Point and Riversdale over New Year's from 4 p.m.
Thank you, Terry. Jill?
Just to give you some context, this is a really big part of our arsenal to try and give the residents of Castle Point and Riversdale a good environment over New Year's period and at Labour Day, because there's a mass migration into these areas of people who booked batches and things like that, and everybody wants to have fun and have alcohol, but without having the road closures, the alcohol bans, it does get out of hand. The youth do congregate, they do come in their vehicles just for the evening, and they cause a huge problem, they leave a mess. Over the years we've managed to get that under control. This last year showed us exactly why we need it, because as soon as we let some in, we had a problem, we had an assault occur, and there is just a lot of non-supervision of youth if we don't keep our finger on the pulse. So I'm just asking if we can keep it in place, please, to allow people to have a good time, but have a controlled time, and we don't end up with people in hospital or antisocial behaviour that has a negative impact on the community. We are going to be policing the Labour weekend this year, because we feel that our lead into New Year's Eve last year was a little bit slack, I would say, from the police perspective. So we're going to get out there, we're going to educate people, understand where the quad bikes are allowed and they're not allowed, alcohol bans. And we're going to talk about the road closures going into the so it's nice that we maintain the police.
Thank you, Jill. Any questions for Terry or Jill? No questions? Well, the recommendations are on page 208. Somebody move Councillor Johnson, seconded Councillor Lennox. Any further discussion? No further discussion of the motions and the recommendations. Points 1, 2 and 3. All in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Terry and Jill. We then go back, we've got all our late items, we've got no late items. We then go to page 6, the confirmation of the minutes of the council meeting on August 2nd, 2023. Do I have somebody to move that there is true and correct record? Move Councillor Johnson, seconded Councillor Bowyer. No discussion on whether they're a true and correct record. I'll therefore put the motion. All in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried. Page 17, confirmation of the minutes of the extraordinary council meeting held on August 9. Do I have a move that they're a true and correct record? I'll move that. Do I second it? Seconded Councillor Lennox. Any questions? I'll put the motion. All in favour, please say aye. All against? No. Carried. Page 22, confirmation of the infrastructure and services meeting on August 16, and I'll ask Councillor Holmes to take us through that.
Thank you. I'd just like to take it as read. These notes are accurate and correct. And just reading through the report, it was a very constructive meeting. I don't think there's anything out of order. But if there's any questions anybody would like to ask, please ask them. Or any of the officers.
Thank you, Councillor Holmes. Any questions for David on the true and correct record? Okay, I'll put them. Somebody move that these are true. Move Councillor Holmes, seconded Councillor Helena. I'll put the motion to a true and correct record. Everybody, those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against? No. Carried. Page 28, the confirmation of the minutes of the Audit and Risk meeting held on August 23. I'll take that. Do I have a mover that these are a true and correct record? Councillor Holmes, seconded. Councillor Bowyer. Any questions on those minutes? I'll therefore put the motion. All in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against, carried. Confirmation of minutes of the Awards and Grants Committee meeting held on September 6. Councillor Nelson, who's the chairman, is not here, so I'm a member of that committee. I'll take that. I'm prepared to move that those are a true and correct record. Have I got a second? Councillor Johnson. Any questions? No questions. I'll put the motion. All in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against? No. Now, page 54. The adoption of the Wairarapa Class 4 Gambling and Standalone TAB Venue Statement of Proposal and Draft Policy for Consultation. And Marissa.
I'm going to hand over to Steph, who's our project lead, as well as to review respect to the report.
Good everyone, I'm Steph. I've recently started in policy role. So this report is seeking your adoption of a draft policy and statement proposal for consultation with the community. All councils are required to have a policy under the Gambling Act and Racing Industry Act, and we have a joint policy with Carlton and South Wairarapa District Council. The Act also outlines the content able to be included in these policies, the review requirements and the process if we are proposing amendments. The policy was last reviewed in 2019, has a 3-year review period, so it's due for review. We reported to you back in April, I believe it was, on the approach taken to the review and received delegation for the right policy group to support the review process. And then taking the review, councils need to have regard to the social impact of gambling. So we contract with external contractors to support us with that, with a social impact assessment, with harm and the benefits, and included to surveys with key stakeholders. We've also done our own analysis and the analysis of the overall effectiveness of the policy. We met with the Wairarapa Policy Working Group in August to workshop the policy and supported recommendations presented today for amendments to the policy. Now, two of the amendments are to strengthen the policy to further mitigate gambling harm. One is an amendment for clarification of the purpose of the current wording of the policy, and the last is just some minor updates that we're proposing. So the main amendments to strengthen the policy, the first is amended criteria for the relocation of gambling venues. So currently they're able to relocate under exceptional circumstances if there's no adverse effect on the character of the district or on some community facilities like early childhood centres. And based on the findings of the analysis and the recommendations of the Wairarapa Policy Group, we're proposing to strengthen this so that they'll also be unable to relocate to most deprived areas based on the population index if they're relocating outside of town centre. The second main amendment is to state that no standalone TAB may be established. So currently they're allowed under the same criteria as the above. We don't have any standalone TAB venues, and this hasn't changed since 2019. So the Wairarapa Policy Working Group has supported strengthening the policy to maintain that sort of same position and to mitigate any future harm. The proposal around the clarification is just around the sinking alert approach, being really clear that that's what we have rather than account for numbers as the current wording looking into it differently. And finally, the minor updates, as I said, just changes since the last review. So as a group policy, we do require consideration by both South Wairarapa and Carlton District Council. Carlton is considering it today, South Wairarapa is considering it on the 27th of September. They're subject to adoption from either on proposing to consult using the special procedure stay from 2nd of October through the 3rd of November, with hearings and deliberations through the Wairarapa Policy Working Group in November and ultimately back to the councils with adoption in December. Any questions?
Thank you, Steve. Right, first of all, any questions? Councillor Bowyer.
Yeah, first of all, thank you for the report. It's very explicit and provides a lot of information. Just my question is around some appropriateness of some wording, and it's in the recommendations 2C, to clearly state that no new electronic gaming machines will be granted consent. I'm wondering if that should be changed to to clearly state that no new additional gaming machines, no new additional gaming machines. Because new can be construed as maybe a machine that has to be taken away to be repaired. So there seems to be a little bit of ambiguity around that wording, and maybe that can be correct.
Yes, I think we could look at that. I think we would mean no new in the context of additional, because we will apply for consent to increase the number. So that we can definitely make some updates here to further clarify that.
Councillor Helena?
Yeah, thank you, Stephanie. I'm just sort of interested in your thinking. If the purpose of this bylaw is to reduce levels of harmful gambling, why wouldn't we adopt a stronger approach? For example, the example you've given here, alternative option, option two, do not allow the relocation of venues under any circumstances for consultation, for example. So, yeah, why wouldn't we be a bit more hard-hitting here?
So that was one of the options that were considered by the local policy working group, so it was looked at. And the local policy working group supported the option presented here today, which is to strengthen the relocation plan to mitigate harm to most vulnerable communities and targets interviews within town centres, which they sort of considered to strike an appropriate balance, I think, around mitigating harm, but also recognising some of those social benefits. And I think prohibiting the use entirely remove any sort of discretion that council could give in those extraordinary circumstances where it may be considered appropriate that it maybe needs to connect further back sure something around that. So it was considered, and that was
Any other questions? We then come to the recommendations on page 54. Somebody prepared to move the recommendations with the C stating to clearly state that no new additional. Is that what you're wanting in there?
Take the word out, yeah.
Or I take you out? There's no additional gaming machines. Somebody prepared to move that?
Well, no, I was going to move option 2 actually instead of option 1. This is simply for a consultation document, and in line with what Councillor Helena said, we brought in this sinking lid policy, I don't know, 10 or 15 more years ago, and it hasn't actually reduced the problem in our area. And so I simply think that option 2, we don't have many tools in this box, but option 2 that doesn't allow the relocation of venues under any circumstances. I think that actually just moves the line in the sand a bit further. We've left it where it was, nothing really has happened. It's time to just turn the screws up a little bit and let's see where we have. And it is only a consultation document, so we might get swamped by millions of people who say it's terrible, and us being open-minded people can then maybe take it out if we want. So, Mr. Chair, I'm moving that option 2.
You're moving an amendment.
No, it's not an amendment because the other one. So I'm moving as a forerunner option 2 that we adopt a more restrictive proposed YRF Class 4 gambling and standalone TAB venues policy, which doesn't allow the relocation of venues under any circumstances at all.
Okay, we've got a seconder for that. Seconded, Councillor Turner.
Yes, can I just comment on that?
Yes, yes.
Just so that Council are aware that, as Stephanie pointed out, this policy has gone through a working group with delegated, responsibility to develop the policy. So they have considered this. If there was a change in direction from what's been brought to the table today, then that would need to go back through Council with Masterton, who are considering it today, and South Wairarapa as well, through that policy group, because that was the position that the working group actually arrived at, that balance of in exceptional circumstances being able to have the potential for councils to be able to consider, like Stephanie mentioned, if it was a situation of earthquake prone, for example, and somebody had to temporarily move out for a period while there was strengthening, that those are sort of circumstances that might want to be considered for future.
Thank you. We now have discussion on the alternative option 2. Any discussion? I'm willing to start the discussion. I will be voting against it and then voting for the amendment, the original one. I think one of the things I find with these sorts of things is that while there's no question that gambling is a problem and you can see by the figures it's grown, that the number of people who are responsible gamblers is hugely more. There was probably, I don't know what the figure would be, but there'd be 5% problem gamblers and 95% who actually gamble for social recreational purposes and who get enjoyment out of it. And I think we've got to be very careful not to be sort of playing the prohibition police on this sort of stuff, if you like, that we have to remember that we're also here as a council to not only look at the people who are struggling, but the people who also on the other side of it who enjoy their gambling. They don't have any problems with it. Their family doesn't suffer. So I think there's two ways of looking at it. I think the First Amendment is strong enough to go through the public consultation of. The second one of Brent's to me is basically we really are playing the policeman on this, and I don't think council has that responsibility. That's the one. Councillor Tudor?
I seconded the motion to throw the amendment to, because at the time I did this, responded to a survey, and I didn't know anything about gambling. This is a problem with meeting with them. I thought I knew. But then I just happened to ask someone close to my family, and I was just amazed at how it did. I agree with you also, Gary, that you were talking about 95% of people, and really I was concerned with 5%, so that's why I seconded the motion.
Thank you. Any further comments, Councillor?
I had a bit to do with this. I fully support the recommended option of option 1. I think the discussions that we had throughout the period of time, we were clearly able to see that we were continuing to bring down the availability and possibility of gambling harm. We also noted that for some people, that pokies are actually a social, their only social outing for maybe the week. Or that. So we considered a lot of things. I believe the removal of standalone TABs is clearly sending a signal that we are looking very strongly at gambling within this area, and we will be taking a no-nonsense approach going forward, especially if there is any desire for relocation.
Thank you, Councillor Bayer. Any further discussion? Okay, I'll start.
Well, I suppose I'd just like to say that it's true what some say, that there's only a small percentage of people that are problem gamblers, but it's still a huge amount of harm. And probably there's only a small percentage of dogs that cause a problem. But we impose quite strict rules and policing to control those problems. There's probably only a small number of people who are criminals, but we have a police force and a justice system to bring them to you. So I just want to treat this like in wider society we treat lots of things. And this is only consulting. It's not doing it. Let's hear what the people say. So I'd like to put the option 2 to your vote.
Yeah, that's been with you. You've moved it. Councillor Tudor has seconded it. Are we prepared to vote on it? Councillor Lennon?
Yeah, I'd just like to say, if we're serious about wanting to make a difference here, we need to take some serious action.
Okay, I'm going to put to the council the alternate option 2, which is to adopt the more restrictive proposed Wairarapa Class 4 gambling standalone 10 venues, the relocation of venues. You see it there. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against? No.
I'm confident.
So passed.
So, sorry, could I have a hand show? For?
4.
1, 2, 3, 4. Against? Motion is passed.
Can you note my conflict and that I didn't participate?
Pardon?
Can you note my conflict?
Yes, I will. Conflict, yep. Okay, we move to page 142. Amendments to the Wairarapa Consolidated Bylaw 2019, Part 10, Traffic Bylaw Schedules. And Kane.
Kia ora koutou. As which was just said, this is an amendment to Consolidated Bylaw Part 10, Traffic Bylaw, which is around the schedule no stopping. There's two amendments. The first one is to the bus stop straight out here on Cole Street, which has been discontinued by Greater Wellington Regional Council and is simply being converted back to parking. The second amendment is to a road layout on Namatara Road as a result of development, an industrial development, commercial development called Solway Trade Park. And that requires intersection safety improvements and a new road layout with a flush median, right turn bays, and therefore there's no stopping to remove parking to allow it to. So you have the options there in front of you, and if you could take the rest of the report as read, there are some PowerPoint pictures in the back if you want to refer to those. Ask any questions.
Thank you, Kane. Any questions for Kane? Councillor Helena?
Thank you, Ken, for the report. Just the Namatara Road option, I see a letter, consultation letters been put out to the affected residents. There's been no responses.
That's correct. The developer also went around and spoke to most of the receivers of that there as well. But no one was touched.
Those he's spoken to
there was no concerns raised and concerns raised.
Yes.
Just through the chair, just as a matter of correctness for the council, the agenda item was published, and after it was published and released, we've just found a couple of minor typos. They're actually on the report and they're coloured in yellow. One's on page 142, item 5. One's on page 146, option 1. And the third one's on 147, page 147, option 2. Just as a matter of correctness.
Thank you. Any further questions for Kane? Okay, somebody prepared to move the recommendations on page 142, 1 to 8. Councillor Lennon, seconded Councillor Holmes. Any further discussion? No further discussion. I'll put the motion. All in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against? Motion is passed. Thank you. Thank you, Kane. We then move to, now we can't do the Wainawa process water project one at the moment until Jeff and Dale arrive from Carlton District Council. They're going to be a little bit late. So we move to page 224, the Masterton revamp project, options for the long-term plan and next step, and Philip Evans.
Sure, councillors, thank you, Your Worship. So I'll take the report as read, and this is what we've been through previously. So what we're looking for today is just confirmation of the options consulted on the LTP. Just noting that the decision to revamp was deferred in the last LTP cycle, consciously deferred by the councillors, so that they are moving forward to put these massive decisions. What I've recommended here, based upon discussions and workshops we've had so far, is that we go with the third option to undertake as much of the phase 1 and phase 2 administrative development as we can do within the budgets. And we'll then put that forward for the LTP consultation paper, for the community to consolidate next year for the decision-making process. As I say, take the report as read. I'm happy to try and answer any of your questions.
Questions for Phil? Councillor Johnson.
Yeah, thanks, Phil. I've just got one question. In the recommendation 3A, it says to further work. I'm a firm believer that the work can't be deferred because we have to do at least the minimum and replace critical infrastructure. So I'm just wondering why A needs to be in there and why we just can't have B and C.
It's a really good question. I think we need to put a do nothing option in the recommendation, but I'm happy to.
The road needs resealing and the pavers need replacing.
And the water mains need replacing as well. So those are the key drivers.
Yeah, so I mean they have to be done, whether it's in our infrastructure budget or whether it's in our CBD revamp. So my recommendation really is just not to have further work, and it's to have approved.
When we get the recommendations, all come
No,
to
but to have the two
council.
choices, not the three.
Yeah. Any further questions, Councillor Goodwin?
Yes, my question is probably more for David Harris. The two main options that I'm looking at is 6.5 million and 14.1 million, and I'm just wondering if, just roughly, if you can tell us what the operating cost of servicing 25-year loan of 6.5 and 14.1 is. I tend to use the number $500,000 on one, but I would hate to mislead anyone.
There's been no cost estimates of the operating cost impact of the funding of this project yet. We're looking for indications to build into our long-term plan development options.
So you missed my question. The question is,
I haven't
what is
costed
the cost of
it,
servicing a capital amount of 6.5 and 14.1? Where I'm saying, and I know you can do this in your head, I'm saying $500,000 and 1 million. Real rough guess, but it just puts it into some sort of, that's all I'm asking.
It's got to be in context of the LTP that the council looks at multiple projects across a 10-year period, and the timing of when this project is delivered versus others, and the extra debt servicing cost that this project generates. There's also funding possibly coming from Waka Kotahi for some aspects of the streetscape upgrade within the Waka Kotahi program, and it's curb and channel that needs replacing. So there's depreciation that's on the street furniture and the pavers we have in our reserve funds. It's not necessarily all loan funded items in the project. So we haven't got down to that detail. We're just trying to get approval of where the council wants to go in terms of a consultation option for the LTP.
Thank you. Any further questions?
Sorry, if I can just read.
Can I have a question?
Yeah, Councillor Bowen.
Can someone please explain to me how Councillor Goodwin is allowed to speak on this, considering his conflict of interest with owning a building on that Queen Street?
Excuse me, I live in the street.
Yes, you have a conflict of interest.
Does where a member lives bar them from conversation?
You declared a conflict of interest at the beginning.
Hey?
You did declare a conflict of interest.
Well, that's okay, but as long as every one of you, where you live, you're not allowed to speak on that street? Is that the rule?
You declare a conflict of interest, you can't participate.
Sorry,
Hey,
can I?
Councillor, could we have...
Just said where I lived, that's all I said.
Mr Councillor Goodwin has declared that he lived on the street and owns a building in the street. The assessment of that conflict was that he didn't necessarily have to not participate because depending on the outcome of the decision, his business could be impacted or not impacted. It could be positive or negative, and it wasn't, there's no direct link back to any changes in that street, going straight back to his building.
Thank you. Any further questions? there's no further questions. The recommendations are on page 20. Yeah, sorry, Ken.
No, can I make a
Yeah,
recommendation?
now you're going to
Okay.
want us to change the recommendation.
So I just wanted to reiterate that in the deferral work option, there's critical infrastructure work that needs to be completed anyway. If we don't complete that, there's risk of failure or critical repairs, and we may be faced with doing reactive work, which is at short notice, often more expensive, and will give you contractor availability. So I just want to point out some of the disadvantages on having a deferral work option. So what I'd like to do is take the recommendation as noted with points 1 and point 2 remaining the same, but with point 3, instead of having 3 options that we're consulting on in the LTP, we remove A, which is defer the work, and we consult on 2 options, which is 1, do the minimum and replace critical infrastructure only, or 2, complete phase 1 and phase 2 reconstruction of Queen Street as in the program, and then 4 would remain the same. So I'd like to amend the recommendation with that one change.
Okay, you'll move that way?
Yeah, I'd like to move that.
Thank you. I'd like to have a second to Councillor Lennox. Now, any further discussion? No further discussion. I'm going to put the motion. Being clear, it's 1, 2, 3, deletion of point A, and then 4. Move Councillor Johnson, second to Councillor Lennox. All in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried. Thank you, Phil.
Thank you, Councillor.
Thanks, Phil.
Page 229, civic facility, options for the 2024-34 long-term plan and next steps. Laura.
Could you record my vote against
Goes to consultation anyway. So you can get it right to go.
I'll take the paper as read, but I just sort of did want to highlight a few things, so I'll speak up. So the paper recommends proceeding the project with focus on 2 options. Those 2 options are the minimum, so closing the project, but being mindful of the fact that there are still decisions required around the strengthening of the municipal buildings and the location of some council services currently on temporary sites. The second option is around upgrading the library on the library site and extending that to include the archives, demolition of the existing town hall and the build of a new performance space in its place, and strengthening the new municipal buildings and civic defence buildings with a purpose to be determined. So progressing these options alone will not ensure affordability of the project. There are also a lot of decisions that need to be made around the requirements and scope of what will be included in this, and that would be worked through throughout the process to get into LTP with some costed options. This paper also recommends the establishment of a project advisory group made up of councillors, DD and community representatives who have expertise in development and the technical aspects of production design. The terms of reference has been drafted already and included in the paper to try and expedite the process to try and get that project group set up as quickly as we possibly can. So the purpose of that group will be to support the option development so that we can get to a place where we can have a business case and costed options moving into the LTP consultation next year.
So, you ready for questions? Yeah. Thank you. Right, questions. Councillor Johnson.
Yeah, thanks, Laura. I just wanted to question, if you go on to the first page with the recommendation in point 2, how it lists that it says to include, upgrade the existing library to include the archives and information hub. Then it talks about the town hall. I'm just querying why there's no mention of our customer services, because with the library we're saying includes the information hub. I believe that with the town hall we should say build a new performance space and include council's customer services, because a lot of the public feedback has been about our Queen Street office and the cost of renting that.
Yeah.
So I think one of the questions, just like this, people will say, well, what's happening with, the old ANZ kind of thing?
The reason it wasn't included is because we had the purpose of the municipal buildings just to be confirmed, so that we can still make a decision about what those buildings would be used for, absolutely they could be used for council services.
We do mention further in the paper, though, we say about potential to rent office space, and nowhere have we mentioned our customer service project. I just think it needs to be in there somewhere, so that it's a question that's answered rather than it's a question that's asked. Thank you.
Any further questions? Councillor Goodwin?
I would just like to see a bit more choice for people in this going out for consultation, and that there is option 1, do the minimum. It doesn't address the fact that there is quite crime, and I believe one of the options should be to strengthen the existing town hall, strengthen it, do it up. That would be a minimum option. It's probably however much you want to spend on doing it. And if you go back a little bit of time, Dave Gorman did put up a proposal saying that a few years ago, and in the last term I think it was. So I would just like to see that option of, say, strengthening the existing buildings, all of them, and call that the one, call it what you like, but it's just a lower cost option. Because, and one of the reasons I say that is supposedly we're having talks with Masterton and there's interest in joining together, and to me to have, multi-million-dollar town halls every 10 minutes on the road is just a bit over the top.
Laura, the one thing I would mention, reading on page 230, where option 1 is explained here, it talks about noting the legal requirement to address the earthquake-prone studies of the municipal buildings. It's an option 1.
Talks about earthquake prone.
Any cost estimate covered with that.
Page 230, when you go to option 1, and it's explained for option 1 as it actually mentions the earthquake-prone buildings there.
No, but I'm just saying to put that in.
It is already there. Yeah, Councillor Johnson?
Can I just say too, though, Councillor Goodwin, you can't strengthen the town hall.
Who's here?
There was never a proposition from Dave Borman to strengthen the town hall. It was to strengthen the facade, the municipal buildings, and rebuild the town hall.
It's funny that you say that, because I met with Dave Borman down there when he came up with a figure of just under 900,000 to strengthen the existing town hall.
No, it's not.
And I took my Wellington engineers down there who thought it was $1.25 million to strengthen the old town hall, and I did discuss that with Dave, that somewhere between, this is 3 or 4 years ago, between 900 and 1.2 million was the cost of strengthening it.
It's not strengthening the town hall.
I'm telling you, that's what Dave Foreman's estimate and my engineers' estimates were between 900,000 and 1.25 million to strengthen
Thank you, Councillor
the
Goodwin.
existing town hall.
Thank you.
Of course you can strengthen it.
You're wrong.
I think the general discussion right through that I've been involved in for the last 3 years has been that the town hall has been demolished. It's been moved in a number of times, and I don't think ever that it's been considered to me that will be saved. Any further questions? No further questions. Is somebody prepared to move the recommendations on page 229? Councillor Johnson, seconded Councillor Lennox. Councillor Johnson, just to make clear, did you want a change that you were talking about for start in your first?
I just think, I don't think it needs to be in the recommendation. I just think if Laura, you could make a note to mention the customer services.
That is certainly the agenda.
It doesn't need to be amended in that.
So we have a mover, Councillor Johnson, seconded Councillor Lennox. Any further discussion? Councillor Helena?
I support the motion, but I don't think it would do us any harm to actually check out with Dave Borman if he actually said that that building could be strengthened for under $1 million. So we're not committing to this project at this point. So I think it would be a wise thing to do.
I think Councillor Leonard's covered by the fact that she can see that Mr Borman is a member of the advisory group, and I'm sure that that will be mentioned in the discussions. Councillor Bowyer.
I support this. I think it's not on David Borman to prove anything. I think it's up to Councillor Goodwin here to prove his statement.
Thank you. Councillor Johnson.
Oh, the other thing I just wanted to say too, I get asked probably every second day what's happening with this. And so I know that we've been, and I'll tell everyone, we've been working away in the background to get all our ducks in a row for the LTP. But I think it's really important that a press release goes out after this meeting today.
It is.
Yeah, because then we get asked every day.
Councillor Holmes?
And they'll mention the people on the steering group, I hope, as well. Great, thanks.
Well, at last, I'd like to congratulate everybody. It hasn't gone through yet, but I'm right behind this. I can feel it here. I can feel it in the room. And I'm sick and tired of being here when it was 6-5. 6-5. And no one listened. And it was heartbreaking. So I'd just like to congratulate Laura and all the crew for what we've done. It's all roads straight ahead now. And this is the start. There'll be squabbles and bits and pieces all the way through, but at the end of the day, we're going to end up with what the community wants, and that's the most important thing.
Thank you. I would mention it just there. This does go out to public consultation.
I realise that.
We have to remember that.
But this is the start.
So I have a motion, and no further discussion. I have a motion by Councillor Johnson, seconded Councillor Lennox. The recommendations are on page 229, from 1 to 5. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against? David, I absolutely agree with your comments. I think, ask me or I can make a comment now. I've got a real feeling really good about this because, as you said, David, very correctly, this has gone on a long time. It's caused a hell of a lot of angst in town. It's caused a lot of division. And at least now people know we're on the same page. We're going to go forward, and we're going to, at the end of the day, the public will decide whether the project goes ahead. Well, we'll get the final decision, but they'll tell us whether they believe that the project should go ahead or not. So I think this has been a real momentous decision, if you like, being made here. So thank you very much, everybody.
Can I just add something, Your Worship? I've just got my notes from the annual plan submission from Dave Borman, where he was quoted as saying 1.5 million to strengthen both buildings plus facade, demolish town hall and salvage the materials.
Okay, thank you.
I'm telling you what he said.
Councillor Goodwin, thank you. We now move to page 243, the Hood Aerodrome, rescope and funding. And Laura, that's you again.
So I'd ask that the paper is taken as read, but I will highlight a few key points. So this paper is asking to reduce the scope of the Hood Aerodrome project to enable it to be delivered within the previously agreed budget of $17 million, and to continue to co-fund the project of $7 million to the support from Kānoa to the tune of $10 million. The key drivers for this project are now assumed to be meeting regulatory requirements, improving safety of Hood, and improving infrastructure to attract development at Hood. Kānoa have confirmed their support for the project based on this reduced scope, but they do require us to continue to match with the co-funding allowance that we had previously. The reduced scope will include qualification, fencing and other airfield improvements like lights and windows, widening and resealing and expanding the runway and expanding the apron, service installation and upgrade to support hangar development, and roads as well to support those hangar development. Off the table then would be additional land acquisition, reset additions to the King runway, moving the Maya Road, and additional taxiways and the movement of the grass cross runway. This meets those drivers that I previously talked about without the need for additional funding. I do just want to point out that qualification only really requires us to be improving our processes and how we operate the aerodrome and some fencing requirements. But there is some very extensive maintenance work and operational work that needs to be done on the aerodrome in the near future to support its further development.
Right, you ready for questions? Questions? Councillor Goodwin.
I am concerned about the revenue streams, but I do take heart from some earlier conversations that went on, and also that I'd be optimistic when we speak so highly of our neighbours like Masterton, that they'll probably join us in raising the standard of this amenity and helping us with it. And we're all in this together. So it's hopefully a very, coming together
question
today.
Councillor Gould, you got a question? Any questions? So this is question time. Questions? If there's no questions.
Maybe just one question. Laura, very excited to see this. I've got a proposed timeframe as when once it's started and when it might be finished.
For the whole works. So there is another paper being taken to agree toward a contract for some of this work. That work can begin in January next year. In terms of the time frame, we must deliver this to meet our Kanoa obligations by June 2025. That is the end deadline for that contract. In terms of qualification, we must have qualified by, have applied for qualification by June 2025. So there'll be a series of works, and I'm putting together a program that will support this as soon as we have confirmed that this is definitely the scope to move forward with.
Any further questions for Laura? Councillor Holmes?
It's not a question, really, it's just...
it has to be a question.
Okay, I'll wait till the next one.
Go to discussion. Okay, question?
Okay. Just, Laura, that date, the completion date is 2025, June, did you say?
That's for qualification. The funding is time-bound to December 2025, sorry.
Any further questions?
It's the maximum though.
Yes.
If there's no further questions, is somebody prepared to move the recommendations on page 243, 1 to 3? Move Councillor Holmes, second Councillor Johnson. Now, any discussion? Councillor Holmes.
Well, I was just going to say that I've got my feel-good hat on again. I think we need to listen to the gentleman that spoke earlier on. He's been involved, and I'm sure he was speaking for not himself, but he'd be speaking for the whole community at Hood. So I think we need to get behind it. This is a start, and I'm right behind it, and I'll back it to the hill.
Councillor Johnson.
Yeah, I'm really excited about this too. The thing I want to stress though is one is, again, press release out to the community, because we're always going to ask questions about Hood. Yeah, good. And the second thing is our key stakeholders are the Hood user group, and we know that that's been a bumpy ride, and there's also been quite a lot of publicity regarding that recently, so it's really important that the journey is alongside them, and that we're working together on this path, and they're well aware of what's happening, when, why, and almost before everybody else knows what's going on.
So when a decision, once these decisions are made, we need to be able to be more open about what we're doing. We have communicated to the Hood user group. They were sent a message on Sunday night to give them an indication of what was going to be in this paper, and we've been speaking to other stakeholders prior to that as well.
Okay, any further discussion? Councillor Helena?
Yeah, like others, I think this is a significant movement forward, and I think this initiative has huge potential for our town and our region. And I do fully support it, but I'm just conscious of the fact that as a district council, we have a number of big projects on the go. We have significant roading costs that are potentially going to be ongoing, infrastructure costs. So when it comes to our long-term plan, if we go ahead and approve this initiative, we're going to need to be incredibly discerning around some of those other projects, so that we don't have a huge increase in our rates and a significant cost or burden on, put a significant cost or burden on our ratepayers. So I'd just like to signal that in advance. And I also think potentially there's significant spending to be done in climate change and in the waste minimisation space as well. So there's a lot going on that are going to potentially impact on our ratepayers. And making this decision now means some of those other decisions are going to be more challenging.
Thank you, Councillor Lennon. Any further discussion? If there's no further discussion, the recommendations on page 243 have been moved by Councillor Holmes, seconded by Councillor Johnson. All in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against? Passed. Thank you very much, Laura. Okay, we'll move on now, since our friends from Carden have come in, to the page 216, the Wainawa Processed Water Project. David Parris is going to introduce it, and you better introduce the three people, David. None of us know them, so if you could just give us a bit of an introduction.
Thank you, Your Worship. If you'd like to come up to the table, Your Worship, and Jeff and Dale.
Yeah, bring a chair. You come up too, Dale, we don't mind.
Here you go, another one.
The report details a processed water project in the Wainawa industrial area that has recently been approved for funding from Kanoa, and the benefits of the project are listed in the paper. It's in the Masterton district, hence we have representatives from the Masterton district here, and they've been talking to the industry in that area and looking to get support from Masterton district to assist with the funding of this project, which is why it's on your agenda today. So I'll hand it over to Ron, is it? Or Jeff, who's talking?
Start off.
Yep.
And your protocols, will we stand?
Yes, you do.
We used to sit on our palms and count.
No jokes.
Look, I'm going to take it that the document that you have in front of you is very similar, if not the same document as we have in front of our council today. So I'll just simply say that the project is forward-thinking, and I think the great thing about this project is that it de-risks Masterton as well, and hence the collaborative proposal we put to you. The funding that we got through from Kanoa was very welcome, and we're very grateful to a number of people, including the Warwick Economic Development Strategy leader, Jacinda, for the work that WEDS has done to help get that through, but there's been a lot of collaboration across the council in getting to this point. If we need to go through the paper, I'm going to ask Jeff to speak to that. There's a couple of comments I'll make after that, but really open to questions that you might want to put. I think the paper has been around, the proposition's been around a long time. It's been a long fought battle to get to this point in time. But the advantages clearly that we see and hear are not just for Masterton, but it's also for Masterton. We can take a massive load off of your water supply, but we need assistance, we need your support to be able to do that. I want to also talk, after I think Jeff makes some comments, about potentially where I see this going beyond what we could talk about as tranche one of the development in that space. So,
Thank you.
Your Worship, Deputy Mayor, representatives from this week is Tuki o Te Reo, so ko Chief Hamilton tuku ingoa ko Tumuaki Rangatira o Taratahi on the Chief Executive. Chief Hamilton and I'm the Chief Executive from Cardiff District Council. So the paper you have in front of you is very similar to the paper that Cardiff District Council has, I'm pleased to say, has just adopted, and looks towards using our water resource in the most effective way that is the least drain on the environment, in particular treating water that is used for industrial purposes, particularly with chlorine and harsher chemicals
that industrial users wish to take out of the treated water because it's not particularly good inside boilers and we brought to higher temperatures. So the project seeks to use a deep water aquifer, so somewhere between 40 and 50 metres aquifer water to reticulate around Wainawa for processed water only, so it would not be used for potable water purposes. It reduces a number of risks for the businesses in there, particularly around the loss of the Masterton potable water supply, which crosses the Wainawa Bridge. That could be taken out by flood or by earthquake. It also reduces the demand on surface water take, which is Masterton's potable water supply surface water take, and we would use a deep water aquifer for industrial processing. And particularly in a dry year where Masterton may need to reduce the amount of reticulation that goes to the industrial park because you need that demand for residential users and potable water in Masterton, that may reduce the supply coming into the industrial park and therefore require the industrial users to scale back production and potentially impact on jobs and economic well-being of the region. So in essence, the project was pulled together to counter a number of risks that we saw and also a number of environmental concerns that were around the use of potable water for industrial processing purposes. And so the Masterton District Council will take the lead in the project. In terms of risk, Masterton District Council are bearing the largest amount of risk for the project, so should there be a cost overrun, both Masterton District Council's contribution appears to be capped at $250,000. Kanoa's contribution is capped, so the risks do fall to Masterton District Council for the delivery of the project.
Thank you.
To take questions.
Did you want to say anything, Dale?
I'm just here to pick up the cheek, Your Worship.
Right. Any questions? Councillor Johnson and Councillor Goodwin.
Yeah, thanks very much. Just one question, and it refers to the report where it says, in dry months, water security is under pressure and usage for industrial processes may have to be restricted or stopped for periods of time. I understand the concept, but just want to ask, has that ever happened? Do you know?
Not to my knowledge. The demand, however, has been increasing for water use in the industrial park, and we are planning for this summer to be a particularly dry summer, so we are expecting there to be more demand pressures.
Thank you.
Councillor Goodwin.
Just two queries. You mentioned that this project seen as a medium-term solution. I just wanted you to explain what that means. And I was surprised when it said that not sure that the bore water is of suitable quality, whereas I would have thought that would have been well known by now. But if you can just answer those two.
Absolutely.
And sorry, the third one is just congratulate you, and that it's lovely to share equally the cost of big projects.
Thank you. I agree. I think it's, it sends a clear message to our communities that we are working together for the benefit of everybody in our community, and where that benefit shows up in your books, as benefits in Masterton community, because we are leading a project. I think you ignore that and you look at Wairarapa. It's a good thing for the Wairarapa that we're working together on things like this. To your two questions, the medium term. So the medium term for this project would be an expansion into stage 2 of the Wainawa area. So stage 2 is further south of Kiwi Lumber, and it's currently held available for sale. It has been subdivided. So medium term we would reticulate further into the industrial park to encourage other users to come into that industrial park, particularly other users that may require high demand for water, similar to cement manufacturing and that sort of thing. So that is the medium-term plan
The unknown quality of the bore water, suitability.
So what I've tried to do with the report is be specific about risk, and there are a lot of risks. Now, we don't believe that there is enormous risk around the quality of deep aquifer water.
But it is a risk, so it would be remiss of me not to include that. I don't believe it will be an issue. Kiwi Lumber next door, they have a deep water aquifer bore and they have no problem with the quality of that water.
Is it the same aquifer? It's the same aquifer?
Correct.
Councillor Holmes, then Councillor Johnson.
No, I'm okay now.
Are you okay? Thanks.
I was just wondering if you're going to use the existing tank, are you quite confident that it's going to be all right? Because you can use liners and things. You're happy with that?
Yeah, so the existing tank is on site and we wouldn't build a new one if we were doing this with a blank sheet of paper, but it is there so we might as well use it. And we've had engineers come out and assess and the tank is suitable for being reused. So it's 2.1 million litres of that tank. And that will provide additional overnight capacity so that instead of trying to fill demand as demand occurs, we can fill the tank overnight and then provide that to the demand during the day when we get peak. But at this stage, engineers have assessed the tank as being available for use, so we might as well use it.
Do you think it's artesian at all? Is it artesian? Would it flow out or would it have to be pumped?
Can I take that as an option to come back to you because I don't know the answer to that and I don't want to...
With my flight tour hat on, I do know that south of you, in the Parkdale Street, it is contaminated. So you're northeast of it.
We would go to a tank aquifer rather than the shade.
Any further questions? Councillor Helena.
Yeah, afternoon, gentlemen. Always good to be joined by three wise men. Good to see you.
Two.
Jeff, I'm just wondering how many businesses will it serve and what's the known sustainability of that aquifer?
Great questions. When we looked at water demand in Wainawa area, the vast majority of processed water is being used by J&L. So at this stage, the project would reticulate through to J&L, so that's down Wainawa Road. So it's one customer at this point. That customer uses approximately 60,000 cubic metres of processed water a year. And when we look at the remaining users, the next highest user of processed water is about 7% of the total daily take. So it's a long way from number one to number two. So hence we would look to other users in the industrial park to reticulate to later on.
Councillor Bayer?
Just in terms of sustainability of the aquifer?
So at this stage, we had Greater Wellington in the room, and I believe the former CEO David Hopman was in the room when we discussed this with Greater Wellington, and their view, whilst they couldn't give me a definitive answer, was that particular aquifer has very few bores in it at this stage. Doesn't appear to be over allocated, and certainly they didn't have any problem with us going to deep water aquifer.
Councillor Bayer?
Thank you very much. Three gentlemen with the proposal. Originally in it, I believe, with J&L being the major user, they were looking at them reprocessing their water and putting it back into the river. That is still part of to help recharge the Wainawa further down the line. That's still
Correct. There is, outside of this project, there is a significant investment that J&L are doing on their own site for what's referred to as reverse osmosis. So reverse osmosis will allow them to reutilise that water, and once it's been retreated and detreated, it is available to go into the Wainawa.
Any further questions? No further questions?
Yeah. Your worship, just sort of place up. One of the things that's excited our council is the forward thinking and the opportunities that this project could potentially bring. We have the Wairarapa established Wainawa as an industrial estate, and we did it for all those reasons many years ago, and we've supported it. But there's still a lot more development to happen there. This project gives us the opportunity to attract other people, other user potential developers, investors, businesses in there who would likewise be looking for a good quantity of water for whatever that is that they want to do. It just adds further to what we've had done through the PGF with the railhead development. It enhances the infrastructure for that whole estate across the board and opens up other opportunities. We're also not blind, although it's not part of this and it's not part of any of the budgetary planning. And I'll come back to one other point. It's not beyond the realm that once it is up and running and effective and being fully commissioned, that should there be a need for an enhanced supply of potable water, that a further stage could be thought of, developed to install purification plants and provide potable water into the estate as well, or even potable water back to Masterton, to assist Masterton with its water supply. If there is such a large quantity, if we can get the sort of consent we would be looking for, and it's sustainable, that is not an option that should be ignored. It's an opportunity we should know. Also, just want to point out that there is a long list of, the 4.4 in our paper, there's a long list of risks that have been specifically highlighted by the staff of the council, and that my council had strong debate over. Bottom line is, we carry the risk, but we also know that there are gateways here, and each of those gateways is a check, go, no-go point, and your money won't be spent if the project turns out to be not feasible. But and we will be the most sensitive because we are the ones carrying the risk on it. But today, council decided we're go, and we're looking for your support as well. Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you, Mayor Mark. Okay, we've got the recommendations on page 26. 1, 2, 3. Somebody prepared to move? Councillor Holmes, seconded. Councillor Johnson. Any further discussion? No further discussion. I'll put the motion.
Oh, sorry.
I'll put the motion. All in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against? Aye. Carried. Thank you.
Thank you, councillors. Thank you, Thank you, Worship. Thank you all.
Okay, we move on to page 253, which is the Chief Executive's report. Steve.
Thank you, Your Honour. Worship. I'll take the report as read. It's a very comprehensive report. The majority of that is work done by Karen Yates, the interim CEO. And I'd just like to draw your council's attention to a change in the report where I mentioned earlier there was a statement about a potential up-and-coming Christmas fair that was being run by Rotary. At this stage we've been advised that that's been postponed until next year, so obviously at the time of the report writing that was not known to council. And I'm open to
questions for Stephen. Councillor Johnson.
Thanks, Stephen. Just a question, if I'm on the right report. It's just about Coronation Hall.
Yep.
And I noticed that the refurbishment's being done, and I look forward to seeing that. I just wondered when registrations of interest for it with regards to renting it, or when are they going to be publicly notified and go out?
I have the pleasure of deferring to Corin, if you could, as a subject matter expert in this area.
I thought you were going to answer that, interim chief executive. Imminently, apologies, we were going to have you guys through the space this morning. There was a bit of a coordination issue there, so what we'll do is we'll try and schedule it next Wednesday morning. We'll try and do it on Wednesday morning because that's the easiest in terms of you guys being here. And then immediately after that, we will be putting out the expressions of interest.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions for Stephen? Councillor Toot.
I noticed that you've got in your report, Karen's report, you've got the fact that the council report inquiry. What's the usage? Lots of rights?
Thank you, Councillor, for that question. I'd now like to defer to Corin as it comes under his department.
Indeed. So the answer is not at all at the moment because it hasn't quite been commissioned, but it is about to be commissioned. As part of the arrival with it, we're also doing a bit of a orientation and safety management. You may or may not be aware that with the arrival of e-bikes, there's also been a substantial increase in the number of accidents on bicycles because a lot of people have decided to start cycling again and done for years. So we're just pulling all that together, and then we will have it released.
Councillor Bayer, Councillor Lennox, Councillor Johnson.
So, Brian, am I to understand this will undertake a lengthy bureaucratic induction for this one? Sorry, could you repeat that question? I would like to understand if this will require a lengthy bureaucratic induction for this bike? Absolutely not.
Councillor Lennox.
Thank you, Corin. Just two questions for Corin. First question being, in regards to the rotary markets now not going to be taking place, unfortunately, would the council then look to reinstate with their market concept that they ran last year? And the second question, statement and question, thank you for bringing the Portaloos to the next school holidays at the skate park. Given the fact that they're the lower version of lower system version, can we just ensure that they are cleaned regularly?
So, to answer your question, so the news to us this morning, obviously, in terms of the market, I'm meeting with the Condev team on Friday. That's part of the discussion. We are aware of the fact that last year we pulled together a market, but 2 months is a short run time to get people and engage and stuff like that. So we're going to go through the logistics around that, and also throwing around a few other ideas as well as that, probably alongside that, to try and make the day of the Christmas parade a big day in terms of celebration.
Thank you, Corin.
Councillor Johnson.
Yeah, I just want to say congratulations on the cultural festival that was held on the weekend. But I do have a question, and the question is, whilst it worked well in Park Street, I find the Park Street a little bit of a concrete, unfriendly type environment. It's not naturally appealing or aesthetically appealing, and I just wondered whether consideration might be given to maybe holding the next cultural festival at the town square, and just wondered whether other venues might be considered. But well done, congratulations, what a good turnout and extremely well organised. Thank you.
So first of all, thank you for the congratulations. All goes to Kelsey and the Condev team, of course, who pulled that together, and some councillors who are involved in that as well, and helped make that happen. Absolutely. So the Park Street was a bit of an experimentation with a street party and celebration, and we feel that went well. But we're also conscious of the fact that in those sort of spaces there are constraints. We would normally sometimes have looked at the park, but because of the wet weather we've had recently, when we were planning, there wasn't confidence that the park would be available, the term would be available. Town Square, great interesting idea, and we'll certainly think about other venues as we plan for the next event.
Thank you.
Councillor Holmes.
Just a quick question for Corin, excuse me. The Northern Riversdale, how are you going with the consent and everything for that with regards to Greater Wellington?
Very well. So we've had a really good conversation with Greater Wellington. We've got permission for rock work to happen in the river close to the surf club to shore up that bank to make sure that there is access for the surf club out onto the beach there, and work will be happening on that actually in the very near future, and we're hoping to have that completed in October.
Sometime we might be able to sort of beautify those rocks a little bit too with the plants.
Yes. We've got some sand around them, we'll be cooking.
I just find it's interesting that Park Street came up, and some of you will probably be aware that...
Oh no, well it's... Okay.
I'll get to the question, but it'll take a wee while. Some of you will be aware that Park Street, the council bought some properties in Park Street in the 50s, and widened it, and the plan was to have a big strip down the centre, which is probably why they called it Park Street, and in that strip it was going to be planted with plants and things, and I'm not trying to be impatient or suggest bureaucratic slow moving here, but I just wonder, and this also came up recently in the CBD refurbishment arguments in the last couple of terms. So my query is, do you have any plans this century to plant, which wouldn't cost much money, and I know I go on about plants, to plant some plants in the strip that we've spent so much money owning for the last 60 years? Are there any plans to put more than the 4 plants that are currently there, which makes it look like someone said a concrete jungle, and it's called Park Street, do you see?
So not familiar with the process we went through in the 1960s, but
can't remember.
But so there are no current plans, but we are happy to look at that and look at what that would look like and cost, and build that into conversations as part of the long-term plan.
2060.
Thank you. Any further questions or comments? I just think that one comment I would like to make is that one of the great things about these reports, you read through this report and it's the amazing amount of work that's been done in the community by our staff, and particularly the community development staff, with all the events and whatever that it's on. And I guess a lot of us don't even get to go to a lot of them, and but they're there, and it's just, to me, it's just amazing that you read a report like that, you think, how the hell did we get all that done with the staff we've got? So thank you to the staff for all you're doing. Okay, I'll move that we receive the interim chief executive report. We've got our seconded Councillor Lennox. All in favour? Thank you. We now have meeting reports from councillors. We're going to start with Councillor Johnson, then we're going to go to Councillor Lennox, and then Councillor Holmes. Councillor Johnson.
I'll just do a quick update on the Wairarapa Youth Governance Group. This is the one to help with needy families or families that are in difficult situations who probably fall under the radar and aren't currently with local social services, but people in the community are aware of them. We've got some really good traction, and we've identified through our networks and people that are on the group 5 families, and obviously we won't discuss who they are, but we've identified some health issues, some self-harm, some vandalism, teenager issues, and some housing and food security issues. So these are people that are fallen through the cracks or haven't been in a comfortable or confident enough position to ask for help. So we're really pleased to say that 3 of those families have been engaged with by the appropriate people who can help them, and 2 of the families are still resistant, because quite often it's about building a relationship and developing that trust, but we are still working on that. And also in one of the groups at the table has brought to our attention another 3 families who the children are under 5. So the idea of this group is to help the families before the children get into that situation where, not that it's too late, but it's an early intervention group. And so we're making some really traction and feeling quite positive about that. The other committee I'm involved in is the Pacifica o Wairarapa Trust, and I'll just highlight that for the first time this year, a week ago, a roadshow was held there with Victoria University, exploring, and there was a number of lecturers there and staff from, cultural staff from Victoria University, and they presented to local students and teachers and parents on the opportunities for academic study at Vic, the wraparound services, the cultural department, how they operate like a family with with a whole area set up for Pacifica students. And it was a fabulous roadshow. And it's the first, hosted by Dame Winnie Laban, and that's expected to be an annual event. So we're pretty excited about that. And the idea is to open the eyes of more Pacifica students to academic studies. So that's just me for today.
Any questions for Councillor Johnson? Yeah.
Oh, sorry, what was the name of that first group you were talking about?
It's called the Wairarapa Youth Governance Group. It's a group that's council's initiated, and it stemmed from the youth violence that was occurring about 6 months ago with the incidences at the park and also New World. And so it's a group of local grassroots people who are involved with welfare, families, housing. We've got someone from Trust House, someone from Ministry of Social Welfare, Te Awhina, police, you know, local people who know the local people, and it's to avoid the bureaucracy and to circumvent how long things are taking to help people. Yeah.
Bex actually, Bex chairs that meeting, and I think the important thing from a council point of view is that where there is facilitators, we're not there to be part of the action. You know, we're actually just facilitating.
To be the ambulance at the top of the cliff rather than the ambulance at the bottom of the cliff.
Okay, Stella, Councillor Lennox.
Yes, so I'll just report on two of my groups that I'm part of. So first of all, Te Awhina. So Te Awhina have kindly offered their charitable umbrella status to assist with the Kingsway Night Refuge, which is going to be open for our sort of extreme homeless. So that's getting closer and closer to being completed now. We received building consent for the work that we need to do to the property a couple of weeks ago, so that's fantastic. And we've also secured around $80,000 worth of funding to get us really up and running. So I'm thinking it'll be all particularly tipped before Christmas, hopefully, which will be great. And that'll just enable those that are living hard on the streets a place to stay at night and get fed and showered and then back out for their day's events. So yeah, that's the little update there, which is really exciting. Also the Refugee Settlement Steering Group. So 2 weekends ago, myself and Gary were honoured to be invited to the actual official welcoming of the refugee people that have come to live in Masterton. And there would have been around 30 to 40, if not more, people there. And it was an incredible celebration and really quite a moving ceremony, to be honest, just hearing these people's stories. But what was wonderful is the representative of the group actually gifted 2 translated Quran books, Bibles, into Leo, to the marae, so that's pretty special. So yeah, I think for the marae and for the group and for Gary and I, it was definitely a pretty amazing special day. So that's been really, really good. And that's it from me.
Thank you, Councillor. Questions there, Councillor John?
I just wondered that Kingsway, are there people staying there now?
We've had some issues with squatters currently, but we work through that just sort of on a one-on-one basis. There is 3 cabins that have been put in place at Kingsway, at the back of the property, of which there is one person who was on the streets, is now residing in there. So he's now sort of our Katiaki whilst we're not there. He lets us know what's happening, so that's great. Yeah, and just 100% improvement from that particular gentleman that came off the streets, has moved in there, is just threefold. So yeah, really, really good stuff.
A few weeks ago I was honoured to represent our worship at the Vietnam 60-year anniversary at the Cenotaph. And on behalf of the council, I laid a wreath, an absolutely stunning wreath. It was beautiful. And it was interesting, there was about 30 guys there, and I can clearly remember Vietnam. And I went and had dinner with them after at the Soldiers Club, and it was interesting to sort of have a talk with them all, and I heard a lot of things that I didn't know about. The thing that amazed me more than anything was that Agent Orange was actually made in New Plymouth. That sort of rocked me a little bit. But having watched on TV for years the Vietnam War, and having spoken to these guys, that a lot of them were actually not involved with the war as such because they were in the engineering and so forth, but it was an insight to me, and I'm grateful that I went. And I just want to thank the council for, as I said, a magnificent wreath. It was beautiful. And I forgot to mention before in my report for the infrastructure, I just wanted to acknowledge Mike Berger for the work that he did. He's gone now. And I really enjoyed his company. And I reminded about the time when I first met him. It was the time when quite a lot of staff were coming in. I immediately thought of him as Ham, so I related his name, because I always knew his name was Burger, so I thought a hamburger. Then every time every time I saw him, I couldn't get the ham out of my head. And he was Hamburger for weeks until I could get his name round the mic. So I don't know what he's doing, but he's not leaving Masterton initially, but thanks to Mike. And thank you again to the council.
Thank you, David. Okay, thank you for those. It's now the mayoral report. I'm going to keep this very short because it's now 5:10 and we really have been here a long day. I was going to mention the cultural festival, but Stella's already mentioned that. That was marvellous. The first upper, it was just brilliant. We've had a lot of interest lately in the media on our being involved in a conversation with merging with further down the track, perhaps merging with Masterton and South Wairarapa. That's taken up a fair bit of media time. We actually had an interview on Maori TV actually regarding it. So there's a lot of interest in it. We have Masterton and Masterton will be meeting with the local government commission with the group that's with Bex's Group and Co. We will be meeting with them over the next month or so just to see how we go about further in this conversation. But we've been very clear that we have not made any final decision ourselves, and that all we're doing at the moment is being part of the conversation. And the other thing probably I would mention is that the Wairarapa Leaders, we have a Wairarapa Leaders Social Wellbeing Forum, which is another meeting where we have police and all the leaders in the social welfare field at a meeting. One of the really scary facts that come out of the last meeting is that there is a college in Wairarapa, and I won't mention its name here, but there's a college in Wairarapa who have got around 800 kids, and 1/4 of their kids are having mental health issues. And the problem they're having, and it's a real big problem we're finding in the community, is that a lot of the agencies who are purportedly meant to be involved in that sort of work are not giving the help that perhaps they should be giving. And at this forum we talked about the fact that that we may need to be a little bit, become almost advocates in the sense of going national on the basis that we need to get into a situation where these organisations do not work in silos but actually work together to help these people. And so we're going to be discussing that at our next meeting of where we take that forward. But it's a pretty scary thing when you hear stats like that. And so that's just that's something that come out of that meeting. So you can see from the meetings we're having, from the meetings Bex is having with her group, the meetings Stella's having with her group, and us, that council is getting quite involved in the community in terms of the at-risk youth that we have. And whilst I know that it's not straight out our job to do that sort of thing, I think that when it comes to facilitation and advocating for them, I think that it's really important. And it's just nice that we're really getting involved in that area. So that's me.
As long as we don't, as long as, that's where it's tempting, isn't it? If council walks into those areas sometimes.
I personally believe that council has a part to play in Councillor Goodwin in those areas.
Well, there's no limit to what council
Okay, we now go forward to public excluded. Somebody prepared to move that we move into public excluded. Move Councillor Holmes, seconded Councillor Helena. All in favour? Thank you. Right, we'll go straight into it, I think, rather than wait for the ice cream. Oh, okay, wait for the